Blog Talk Radio.
Always look up, never give up, and you will reach your goals. You're important, you're more than enough. And here she is, your host for Rolling with the Diva, Sabrina Williams. Thank you.
What's up, y'all? Oh, I always say that. How are you guys? It's a wonderful day in Las Vegas, Nevada. It is great, going between 94 to 104, and depending on what part of town we're on, we hot carry. We can have a storm here and a storm there, and it's just, and then the sun, and I just feel like, you know what? I'm walking through hell because it's just hot, and I can't do it anymore. But you just take the wheel and you'll get some snow for us and make this all stop because I'm very hot right now and I'm sweating and it's not very good. Hi, Miss Vera. How are you today?
I'm doing good, Sabrina, a.k.a. Diva. I'm doing excellent. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I just got to do an in-person interview with Clarence Jones from CJ Clothing and here in Las Vegas. So it's been a really, really fun day so far. I'm just loving it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're on the phone with Miss Vera Harris, and she has a children's book, and it is called, I think if I remember right, let me not say it wrong, Maxine and Michelle's Around the World, right?
Monica and Michelle.
Monica and Michelle. Sorry, Monica.
You was close. Monica and Michelle traveled the world.
And you know what? I like the title of that book. And so we're just going to get into it. If you guys want to know, we're going to have Ms. Harris give a little short synopsis of who she is. You guys can listen to our show from yesterday, Dyslexia, and you can hear more about her and the work that she does. But go ahead, Ms. Vera, and give everybody an introduction of yourself and tell them where you're calling from.
Okay, thank you, Sabrina. Hello, everyone. My name is Vera Harris, and people do call me Miss Vera, so that is quite, I welcome that. I am a author of children books books that are written for kids to entertain and engage, as well as teach them valuable lessons. And my books are up to little kids up to age 12. My first two books are written for easy reader kids that maybe don't read at all. The parents or the teachers are trying to get them to read, so it's easy sight words on the first two books that I've written, and I started in 2014. My most current book is called Monica and Michelle Travel the World, and it is about, I was in the military, so I'm a veteran, and I served 30 years and 11 months and 0 days in the Army with 18 months. With 18 months of service in Iraq, Baghdad, and about 4 other places we were involved with. So I'm a combat veteran. And when I came back home after retiring in 2006, I decided to write children books because my grandson was born shortly after I retired from the Army, and he struggled with reading. So he's my inspiration to write even my first book in 2014.
Amen on that. And you said something that is important that your grandson, correct?
Yes.
And that he struggled to read, and so you caught him at an early age, which is something we talked about yesterday with dyslexia. But one of the things that I found I like this point that I found, reading books allows for children, stimulates their imagination, and expands their understanding of the world. It helps them develop language and listening skills and prepares them to understand the written word. Even after children learn to read by themselves, it's still important for you to read aloud to them. What do you think about that, Ms. Vera?
Oh, most definitely. You will find out that when children develop, kids and children as a whole develop a love for reading, they will do so much better in middle school. They will do so much better in high school, college, or even in the workforce. And you will find out some of your greatest leaders were people that love to read or embrace the idea of reading and made that a part of their everyday life. And reading, it don't necessarily just have to be a book. You could read a magazine because there's very good articles are there, or you can read a newspaper. I think that's where my love really started. Me and my dad used to read the newspaper from A to Z, and then I started moving in as I got older as a kid. I started moving into reading books. Now, I always read books in school, but the enjoyment, I love that just reading the paper, and that brought me to reading the newspaper, and that brought me to reading books and then enjoying and following along with the books and using my imagination of how, if I'm reading about some place, like say if I'm reading about the Bahamas, back then never been to the Bahamas, just reading about the Bahamas, I can visualize what it's really like. So it put me in the story. In other words, it put me at that location.
And you know what, and that's an amazing point because you're actually activating your neurons in your brain to stimulate other parts of your brain, whether you're a lefty or a righty. And let's get back to the part about reading the newspaper. I think that some, like especially today in 2018, and especially for the last 7 to 10 years of social media and with these tablets and with Kindle, that more kids are getting away from reading books in their hands and getting that understanding and grasping what it is to read a book. And it's easier to go play a game and then to read a newspaper, read a magazine, or even when you ask kids to research, they'll instantly go to read to the internet, but don't understand the concept of how to really research what an encyclopedia is and stuff like that. What do you think about that?
I most certainly agree. Now, I'm an advocate for electronics, and I know that we need them in this day and age. And I know back in the 60s and the 50s and the 70s, they were there, but not as prominent as they are here. So it has its place in our lives and society, but also just that good old-fashioned book, that good old-fashioned newspaper, good old-fashioned magazine. Because one thing about a newspaper, I'm just going to use that for example. When you read a newspaper, you can read it for the section A, B, C, D, F. I used to read all of it, even the business, and I was a young girl, and that kind of helped me understand the business world. I would read all the way to the end, just all the different sections. But when you read a book on your tablet, you will get distracted because the internet is so easy for you to just, I'm going to stop right here and see what's going on in the internet. And what you're actually doing mostly, some people, are just kind of looking at pictures or following someone else's life that may not really be what is projected on the screen in pictures. But if you turn back to that book, or maybe just if you have to read a book on your Kindle, stick with that book only, and you will find out that you will so much enjoy reading, so much more.
Now, why don't you tell us about your book and the newest book you have? We'll go back to the other two, but why? What is exciting about traveling? Because obviously you have a travel little gene in you, especially being in the military. So talk to us about your newest book.
Yes, my newest book, Monica and Michelle Travel the World. It was actually released in April of 2018, so just a few months ago. What I did, I wrote this book based on my experiences as when I was in the military and traveling around the world. I had a daughter, and she went, when they were little, of course, they'll go where you tell them to go. But as she got older, she had her sets of friends in her school that maybe she was at this. In particular, we were in Oklahoma, and she was at one school for from the 8th grade to the 11th grade. And then in the 11th grade that summer, I received orders to go to Germany, and she did not want to go. And I wanted her to go because, first off, she's a part of my family, and I wanted her experience living over there, learning a different culture, getting experiences that she probably would never get, being stationed in Oklahoma. She didn't want to go, so but she ended up going and enjoyed it and loved it, made friends and everything. So that's where I got the idea from. Monica and Michelle Travel the World. So it is about two girls, two twins, and their parents are both dual military. They just happen to be in the Air Force. And this book is about the struggles of one child wanting to go, one kid wanting to go with her parents to a new country, and the other one wanted to stay back. And I think it's the fear of, meeting new friends, and maybe you was on the drill team or in the band, and then all of that will probably go away. But that's so far from the truth, because you will be embraced with other friends, different cultures, different things that you probably would never experience had you not had left your old location. So I wanted to write this book to bring it I honed on my military experiences to show kids that they can adapt to different locations. And their parents do not necessarily have to be in the military. I mean, this is for parents who move because of their job and they get transferred for whatever reason from Texas to Nevada to New York. So it's not just really for a military kid. It's for anyone who parents transfers to a new location. And that could also mean living in the east side of Dallas and you're moving to the west side of Dallas, moving from the southern part of Dallas to the northern part of Dallas. So I wanted to just bring that to light to let the kids know that they can succeed and they can be successful, even though it's up to age 12. Because I think that year you're kind of vulnerable to, you really don't understand it, and you're really not sure if you want the kids to like you when you're at that age. So you're really kind of apprehensive about moving. So I'm hoping that Monica and Michelle Travel the World will shed some light on traveling, and that it can work out, and will be, and it definitely could be a fun experience. Mm-hmm. Hello?
Sorry, I actually had the phone on mute because I was trying to be a good listener. Sorry about that.
No problem.
I was like, oh my God, I can't hear. I was going to say, I think it's really awesome that you had that you took your daughter, that she'd finally agreed to go with you in her senior year. And I know it's her senior year, and I know some people listening like, oh my God, it's her senior year. But think of this. We don't see that as much as we used to, but we used to have people do exchange students, like from United States to Germany to Japan. So think about all that experience that they get. And I think if more kids today had that opportunity presented to them, and it's actually a good business thing, and it's also good for your child, for your teenager's resume. And sometimes I know that sometimes parents are like, you're dragging and pulling your kids up from their roots in their last year. But it's always a good thing if they can go with their parents to keep that solid foundation in their life with their parents, because kids want structure. They will adjust to their environment.
They will. Kids will adjust more than we give them credit. Young kids as well as teenagers, they really adjust more than we actually give them credit for. And in my experience, my daughter did adjust really well. Matter of fact, she didn't know anyone because she came in as a senior, and she ran for student the class secretary, and she won. And not even knowing a soul there, she won. So and then she got involved with her school with the activities and ended up enjoying school. She has friends for life, those that was in Germany with her. And with social media, she still keeps up with them and the kids that she was friends with in Oklahoma. She still keeps up with them, and they're definitely, all of these kids are grown now, but they sometimes she'll tell me, I ran into so and so. Remember we were in Germany together, and she so it actually is very helpful, and I'm really glad that I was persistent that she traveled with me and not stay back with my parents, because I know some families probably would have done that because she didn't want the kids to get pulled from school, and it didn't hurt their grades at all. It didn't hurt her grades at all.
Nice, awesome. So with that, we're going to take a quick commercial break and ask you guys to make sure you check out www.styleroom326.com. My really good friend, Volante Marie, which has a web designing company, and she also does Bible studies that are for sale. She actually is their ambassador, and they have some very unique fitted-to-you styles. They're in Chicago. You can actually talk to them. You can shop by brand. Some of their brands are 24K, Blue Rose, de jure, STMT statement. You can actually you can follow Volante Grant on my page, and I will give you guys a link to her. She's a ambassador for Chicago. And also you can go and shop online at Style Room 326. But go through the link so the Volante gets the credit for that. Thank you guys for that. Also, just want to remind you guys that Divine Royalty Travel offers you travel to any part of the world, any part that you want to go to, whether it's local, internationally, or you want to go to an island all by yourself. Yes, we can make an island happen all by yourself. It's not a bad price. You have people catering to you 24 hours a day and food that's made to your liking. And you get to rule the island by yourself. So where can you go to say, wouldn't you want your bucket list to say, I got to be on an island by myself? So check out Divine Royalty Travel, and you guys will, you can find them through my link too. All right, we're back. We're on the air with Miss Vera, and we're talking about children's books and about why it's important for children to read and why it's important, you know, and why she wrote her book. And she said she wrote it for her grandchild. So we're back here. Miss Vera, tell us, what is it like for a child being, like, in the military as far as, like, schooling? Do they have the same structure as we do in the regular brick and mortar?
Yes, they do. They some places, whether it's definitely in the United States, some places the kids will go to school in the local community with the local community kids and the military kids. And then there are some bases or posts, if you will. We have our own schools, which is the Department of Defense school system. So overseas, in particular, they are taught on the base itself, and they taught with just all of the makeup is all military. But there are some instances where kids of military parents, they go to the local community school in that state where their parents are stationed. The same criteria and everything. The same requirements to graduate, the same activities, football, basketball, cheerleader. You have to pass the same types of tests. I think in Texas we have the STAR exam and stuff like that. So they have the same type of criteria. I think being a military kid is a little different because if you're overseas and if you should unfortunately get into some trouble, you probably pay the consequences a little more than a kid that's a civilian because it will go against your parents because, you know, you're there because of your parents, so you still have to abide by the rules of being a great host in that country. So, unfortunately, if you know the military school system does not really play around. If you like skip school and don't want to go to school, they will not keep you there. They would actually send you back to the States, and your family will have to find other means for you to get educated. You know, you would have to stay with a relative. So, a lot of kids are aware of that. So, 99.9% of the kids, when they do travel with their families to different locations, they understand that they were taught that at a young age that, you know, I represent not only myself, but I actually represent my dad and my mom, and I represent the United States. So I have to, you know, conduct myself in a way so I don't bring discredit upon the United States. And so they understand that, and they have a great time. And a lot of them actually, when they do finish school overseas, some of them will go to colleges over there because they do have, you know, American colleges over there. Most of them come back to the United States and go back, go to school here, and the parents are still serving out their tour duty. So it's basically the same. It's just that the military has certain rules that, especially when you're overseas, that you don't want to bring discredit on the U.S. of A is what I mean. So the kids they'll kind of think twice before they do something really bad, and I mean just something like skipping school or not going to school or maybe getting into fights. That's not tolerated a lot overseas. As maybe in the States you could sort of get away with it because they have alternative schools that you can go to. It's not so much designed like that overseas. So you want to be on your best behavior and be a good student and have fun But, and it's understood. Those kids are brought up in that environment all their life, so they understand that. They understand respect and stuff like that, as well as surveillance.
Nice. And so, what's the hardest part of being an author, and how would you motivate somebody who wants to write children's books?
I think the hardest part of being an author is in my experiences, has been getting your name out there, getting marketing part of being an author. It's because if you write what you know, that's easy, and that's what I have tried to do with all four. I try to write what I know. That makes it easier. It's harder when you, as a self-published author, you have to do all the marketing by yourself. So you have to be constantly aware, and you have to stay, and you have to be fine-tuned with social media and all the different social outlets that's offered for us. And I had to kind of get smart on some of them, and some I didn't want to touch, but I realized that I had to in order to engage with my audience, in order to let them know, hey, I have a book. I have books that your parents or teachers and your kids may be interested in. So I think that's the hardest part of being an author for me. And then, of course, just getting reviews. A lot of times people will buy your book and say, hey, I love the book, but it's just, that's another part that I kind of struggle with is just write me a review. You don't have to say a bunch of cheesy words. You don't have to say a bunch of flowery words. Just say, hey, I read the book. I really enjoyed it. Or if you didn't enjoy it, give some constructive criticism, because that will help authors as well. And I think it was a second part. Did I finish both parts of your question? I hope I did.
No, you did.
I know the other part you asked me, how could I motivate? I would just tell new authors that's learning that no matter what genre, I just chose children's books because I didn't want my son, my grandson, since he suffered with dyslexia, I didn't want him to hate reading and he would be labeled, a bad kid, and it was only because of his disability. But I would encourage authors that if there is a story in you, write every day. When something comes to mind, write it down. Keep a journal with you. Keep pencil and paper nearby your nightstand at night. Move away from the television every now and then and just kind of write down some thoughts. And if you're really interested in writing a children's book, read children's books. Observe kids at different settings, at church where you may see a group of kids kind of talking, just kind of observe and see what they're discussing, what they're talking about, because you can get some ideas like that. And if you happen to be like maybe at a mall or at a movie theater and you see some young kids, even young adults talking, if you want to write YA books, just kind of listen to what they may be talking about, and those will give you some good ideas. But don't give up. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it. All advice, not good advice, so you kind of got to kind of wade through it, and then ask for help. Don't feel too proud. Ask for help. Get a good illustrator. Get someone to edit your books. I learned the first book. I had a couple people, and I saw some mistakes, but as the years it's been 4 years now, I've gotten better. I know what they're doing, and I kind of stay with that group of people, and they have helped me so much. So I would just say, just don't throw in the towel, but and then one thing that I've discovered, don't tell everybody everything. If you're thinking about writing a book, don't share it with everybody. Just kind of keep some stuff to yourself until I got my manuscript, now I'm going to approach this part of the journey. But don't tell everybody everything.
Amen on that. And with that being said, because I've been really motivated lately by a lot of the authors that's been on, and I was trying to find my ground for where I write really well, as have a part of me that really wants to focus on the age of, it's actually the grade of 6th grade to high school. So this is titled, I'm just going to read part of it, and it's called Today I Said No to a Bully. Today I said no to a bully. Today I said I am important. Today I said I am worthy and I will not be bullied anymore. The bully was dumbfounded. I smiled, waved my hands twice, and said no more. You need to know your self-esteem is low, actually more than low. It is in the basement. She stopped, looked at me, looked up and away from me. I walked toward her. Amazingly, she stepped back as if she was afraid of me and flinched. I put my hand on her shoulder and said, "Who?" And I'll stop for that. So that's the grade that I'm going to. And because I was bullied as a kid, but I also realized that I have to come to terms with I'm important. And my self-esteem is important, and a lot of bullies don't have a good self-esteem. So that's the beginning of where I'm going with my writing for that age group. Anyway.
I like that. Yeah, that is a topic that, for so long, probably when I was growing up, you just kind of just took it. But these days, it's, no more. I mean, there is, it's not, it won't be tolerated. But back in the day, as they would say, you were kind of picked upon, and the bullies were the bullies, and everybody in the school knew who the bullies were, and they just went on about their life. But nowadays it's not like that, and I'm glad that things has turned around, because a lot of kids really grew up and turned into some adults that weren't really happy with themselves, or maybe suffer with self-esteem issues because they were bullied when they were young and they didn't have any resources, no one to come and talk to, or no one to really understand what was going through, what they were going through. So they kind of kept those issues with them, and they grew up with that as an adult. So, yeah, so that's very good. And there is a need for books on bullying. There's a great need for that topic.
And I thought combining the bullying and your self-esteem, and of course you can take it back, because there's sections that I'm not talking about where they go into talking about her family where they were bullied and she was following a pattern. And that's the things we talked about yesterday with you and Dr. Linda. Patterns are repeated in families over and over and over again until one person in the family decides, I'm breaking the cycle. Enough. I'm done with it.
Yes.
I don't care if I have to learn to read and I'm dyslexic and I have to admit it to the world, or I have mental health issues and I'm going to go get help, but I'm breaking the cycle, because if you don't break the cycle, it just continues. But if you break the cycle and bend, and it's like throwing a rock in the water, and there's a ripple effect. You changing the way that the water affects you now is going to help you. And as you and Dr. Linda said, your children. Sometimes it can skip over your children and go to your grandchildren. But the positive effect is just as important as the negative effect. So learning to talk about these things, learning to get kids reading and getting kids to understand, because reading, I equate reading with, I was helping a high school student the other day, and they gave me their resume, and it was just 3 lines and they had their name at the top, and then they had 1, 2, 3, and it had things that they are good at and things that they've done, but it had nothing else. And I said, well, have you read a book on resume? What do you mean reading? We've got to get back to kids and reading and adults reading, because there's so many things that can help you advance your career, advance yourself. Learning to write a great resume is what makes you stand out to an employer.
That is true. And there are some employers that when they interview, they bring you in for an interview, they will ask you, can you name the last couple of books you have read? And, you could be the best one for the job, the most qualified, highly qualified, and then if you don't answer that question, then, that may be the reason that you didn't get the job, because that tells an employer that you will go beyond. So then that you pay attention, you're attention to detail person. If you read books, because when you're at work, if something come across your desk or some email come in or some new regulations, they know if you're a reader, you're going to take the time to read that, to understand that. Should you become a supervisor, you'll be able to explain that to the people that you supervise, to your team, to even if someone that's over you. Maybe they don't have a clear understanding of a new regulation. But if you are a reader, then you could help them with that. But there are some companies that will ask potential employees, could you name the last couple of books you read? They don't even just say last book. They may say, could you name the last 2 books you read? And if you kind of throw you and you look at them like, oh, well, I haven't, that may just cost you the job. And you could have, you could have been the most qualified for it.
And you know what? You brought up a great point about reading, and you're right, because I used to work for the county, and I would always read every memo, everything the union sent us for change, and that way I was always able to stand up for myself, because if something happened, I'd be like, that's not what you guys are supposed to be doing, but that's not what I'm supposed to be doing, and this is what we all should be doing. Or, no, my rights are this. And so you're right. And also, it's important because companies, they'll ask you, did you read about us on the web? Did you read a book about us? Can you tell us 5 things? Can you tell us 5 things about our company, or blah, 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 or what about this? And you should know about that company. So reading is really critical, and it starts young, but it continues until the day we die. So reading is critical.
Is so true. Yeah, and because they put it out there, they put they put their strengths and how well they've done over the past 10 years, and they put what their mission statement is, and if you don't read that when you and understand it, so when you ask that question, they can tell not only do they don't really know about our company, they don't even read, and that's all the employee here is they don't read. So when you don't read, then you're not an attention to detail person. You're going to miss something. And so it could be, you have to do this way, but since you don't read, you're just going to probably take shortcuts. So that's why it's really important. Yeah, that's why it's really important even to start young, because when you start young, when you get in college, well, even when you get in high school won't be such a struggle. And when you get to college, totally different. It won't be a struggle for you. But if you never really grasp the concept of reading and try to understand it and just enjoy the reading. I mean, you don't have to read like a 400-page novel, but just something daily, some type of written work daily. And I agree with you. It shouldn't always be the Internet. I mean, even not to say that they don't have engaging articles on the Internet, but you want to pick up a book. If you got a Kindle, you want to stick with that book that's in that Kindle and read. I mean, just find what interests you the most and read those type of books. It's certain types of books that I read, and I like to read them. I follow those authors often,